privilege of listening to Concern, and he played back some of the statements which some of our politicians had made in previous years. When I heard them, I told myself, you have to be very careful. Yes, you have to be very careful about what you say. Think seriously before you open your mouth, because you find that things will catch up with you. So I think that is a very useful lesson. And the other important thing, and I keep stressing it, we may belong to different political parties, but we are not enemies. There are so many of you who, because of discrimination, would not even want to be seen with me in broad daylight. Some of you come to me on the cover of darkness because, yes, you have government contracts and you want to protect them. I'm not a leper. Yes, I'm not a leper. Let's recognize that joining political parties is a device for winning political power. Once we finish, we should be politically colorblind. We should be able to work together. You have a situation where the moment NPP came to power, we have spent money to trade, people occupying positions with knowledge. They were all asked to proceed on leave. Some are still proceeding on leave. Atta-Mills will not do that. We'll make use of the best human resources that we have in the country. And political collaboration, should not be a disability. That is one thing that I've learned. Having been in government and having been in this.
And I'm just going to take you on just the word you just said. You said you're not a good judge of human beings. You want to be president.
At the time.
So you are now?
Yeah.
Because my question would have been, if you still aren't, how can we trust you to pick the best people to work on behalf of the people of Ghana?
Oh, now I'm very good at it.
All right, if Mr. Kwabna Otu from the Trades Union Congress is here, could you please introduce yourself and ask your question?
I think I've done the introduction. I'm Kwabna Otu from the Trade Union Congress.
Yes, sir.
Wages. I think you are aware about low wages in this country. And the wages are not only low, there are inequalities in the wage structure. And additionally, you have various government agencies and ministries determining their wages. Sometimes government does not even have control over the wage levels and all that. The NPP government has instituted a reform program which is expected to result in the single spine salary structure, bringing all government public sector workers on a single salary structure, and it's due for implementation in January 2009. What's your take on that? Are you going to implement that? Quickly, you talked about over-liberalization of our economy, and I underline that. I think some of the things that you can do when you come to power depends on the decisions that are taken today. On 13th December 2007, government initiated the so-called Stepping Stone Economic Partnership Agreement, which is supposed to ensure that at least for a period of 15 years, there will be no increase in tariffs on European imported products into our country. And you have already alluded to the fact that you want to increase tariff on poultry. What are you going to do about the Interim Economic Partnership Agreement, which establishes a free trade agreement between Ghana, a vulnerable developing country, and the most important trading bloc in the world, the European Union? What are you going to do about that? Thank you.
Now let me take your first question. When we were in power, we introduced the Ghana Universal Salary Scheme, the GUSS, which the MPP promptly dismembered. They promised that they would put money in people's pockets and they will give a living wage. Well, I'm happy. At the last May Day rally, after 7 years, President Kufuor was asking workers to exercise patience. I'm also being patient. We look at the report or the fair wages and salaries and then act accordingly. But let me say that we are not going to say that we are going to reject the report because it was initiated by the MPP. There must be continuity in government. You made reference to a pact which they have signed. Well, there's something called Pacta Sunt Servanda. you have to fulfill your obligations. Sometimes your hands are tied because of what your predecessors have done. The problem in this country is that we tend to belittle the efforts of our predecessors. Let's acknowledge the good things that they have done and move on. But if you are going to engage in fault finding, it creates a problem for us. Nobody can reinvent the wheel. You build on foundations which others have laid. Unfortunately, it has taken some of us too long to realize this simple truth.
You're still listening live to the IAA Encounter with Professor John Evans, Atta-Mills presidential candidate of the opposition NDC. We have just under 5 minutes for one or two more questions. I have to apologize, we can't take all the questions. So we've had a lot of people asking questions from this side. We're going to roll over to this side of the auditorium. We'll ask 2 questions under 1 minute, and then we'll get quick responses. And then from Professor Mills, also under 3 minutes. Let me start with you, the gentleman with the microphone in white.
My name is Harry Williams. Prof, you spoke extensively on profligate expenditures. I know that the NDC has been criticizing the MPP government decision to purchase 2 aircraft. I want to know what you intend to do in case you come to power. And also, what has been your own look of current rate of accidents? Thank you.
Okay, let me answer that question. You know, sometimes we talk too much. The experience that we had with the presidential jet, it sat on the tarmac for years. It was sold almost as a scrap. Personally, I wouldn't go in and buy 2 planes, spend that much money at this time. But let's face it, we have more important things to do. If we do have a plane, a previous government has committed itself and bought a plane, and it's available, I come as president, and I decide I'm not going to use it, I'm going to spend the people's money to go on commercial transport. Am I not causing financial loss? Am I not misusing the resources of the country? It's true that I would not have bought it, but it's available. So what I'm saying is that let's look forward. We criticize, which we have every right to do. The final decision with the government. We wouldn't do it, but it has been done. What do? You let it sit on the tarmac for years, only to sell it as a scrap? I don't think that we are being fair to the people of Ghana. And I would want us to be very, very objective in this area. Once it is available, you are going to use it. I'm not saying that it should be made available. And however, if you look at the conditions under which it's acquired, and there are problems, you have every right to deal with those problems. If there are no problems, yeah, what can you do? It was the same with the presidential jet that we bought. They made so much noise about it. They could not find any illegality about it, but yet it was left standing on the ground. How would you?
If Abdul Karim Hakib from the National Union of Ghana Students.
And then the spate of accident. You know, we have a few problems in this country, but it's more than a few problems. But I couldn't mention them all. Sometimes you ask yourself, do we intentionally create the problems for ourselves? I find it difficult to understand how anybody can so construct a road that it rather creates traffic jams. I don't want to mention any particular locations, but I know in one case, they can take you as much as 3 hours to go over a distance of 2 or 3 kilometers. Saturday afternoons, if you use that road, you will sleep there.
Okay.
I mean, what is this?
Thank you very much, Prof. We have to...
Thank you, Prof. I'm Abdul Karim from the National Union of Ghana Students. Prof, coming from the universities, you will agree with me that there are a lot of blueprints over there that, if implemented, would at least take us from the current sketch that we all see. May I know what pragmatic steps we will take in integrating the universities into the developmental agenda of the nation? And secondly,
One question,
would-
please. We're out of time.
Yeah, this is a follow-up. What would
You are allowed one
Your-
question. I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Prof.
Let me tell you, I recognize the erudition and the wealth of knowledge that my colleagues have. And I will tell you that some of the things that we are saying come directly from them. We meet them, we discuss things with them. And therefore, I would say that they are contributing a lot, to the policies and the things that we are saying. We'll continue to rely on them because many of them have very, very, very good ideas. So we are not relegating them to the background. We appreciate your work and congratulations.
Madam Gloria Forigweju.
Thank you.
Under 1 minute. Thank you.
I work with the Women Assistants and Business Association, and this question is to Prof. Mills, my company law lecturer. You made mention of training more physician assistants and nurses for hospitals in the regions. How about doctors? We now have a ratio of 14,000 people to one doctor. And the infant mortality is high, maternal mortality very high, life expectancy of the average Ghanaian below 60 years. How about medical schools? Because right now we know there's a stringent requirement to those schools. Thank you.
Well, if you look at the figures, the number of doctors we have trained over the years, you will be amazed. A lot of them are found greener pastures elsewhere. That's another subject altogether. How do we retain their services? And this is one issue to stop the brain drain, because I believe that if we're able to stem the tide, we'll be able to get quite a few doctors working around. But for as long as the conditions exist which encourage the brain drain, you can train any number of doctors. You are not going to be able to succeed. I wish we had more time to talk about the causes of the brain drain, and I'm happy that you've drawn attention to it. This is one of the things that we have to discuss with members of the Medical Association and the schools, the medical schools, the universities. How can we help them to expand? And if they expand, are we going to derive any corresponding benefit from the expansion? I think these are all issues that we should be able to consider.
I've been told that we have time for one more question under 1 minute.
Well, Professor Mills, my name is Roland Aqua-Steven. I would want to find out from you, what in your estimation do you think made President Kufuor nominate you for a national award? Thank you.
Well, I'm happy you said President Kufuor nominated me. I didn't nominate myself. So I believe that he will be the best person to answer that question.
Akwesi Sapo, my colleague from Joy FM, you have one question?
That's right. Professor Mills, my question is to do with internal security. There's been a spate of armed robberies. There's been the issue of poor accommodation or the lack of it for police officers. And the matters to do with cocaine halls. What do you intend to do about the image of the police service and ensuring internal security?
Well, I believe that in my presentation I made reference to the fact that the police service needs revival and restoration. I think that I was being rather diplomatic in that respect. So, but I believe that it's an answer to the problem. How can you restore morale and confidence in the police service? And I think there are practical ways of doing it. I've been chairman of the police council before, and I think that we have some fair idea as to how that can be achieved.
You're still listening to a live encounter between the NDC flag bearer, Professor Atta-Mills, and an audience here, selected audience here at the Elisa Hotel. We're live on national television, GTV, the station of the nation. We're live on National Radio, Radio Ghana, and on Joy 99.7 FM. My name is Matilda Santi, moderating here. We're going to give Professor Mills a few more minutes now to make his closing remarks. We do apologize to those of you who wanted to ask questions but couldn't, but obviously I'm sure you will understand that we couldn't possibly take all the questions you have. The professor is still available. You can still speak to him for another 5 or so minutes once he leaves the auditorium. So you can accost him with your questions, not literally.
Well, I'll charge people for asking me questions. Well, let me say that I've really enjoyed this evening. Let me say here and now that nobody has monopoly over wisdom. Very often, when we are in government, there is a tendency to display arrogance and give people the impression that you know it all. As I said, I want to introduce learning into the implementation of policies so that you'll be able to react effectively. Indeed, I've enjoyed answering the questions. And when you consider the questions, you can see where they are coming from. I pray to God that He will enable me and my colleague to be humble enough from time to time to face stakeholders and learn from them. Very often, we dictate to them. But let me say this, we do not know any better than anybody. And let's say, particularly for a presidential candidate, any presidential candidate who gives the impression that he knows everything is nothing but a charlatan. You do not. I think that the mark of a leader is to make the best use of the human resources available. If you have a leader who says he knows everything, then you will say a leader who is likely to drive your vehicle into a ditch. And I think that it's important that we do that. We have so much talent in this country. We have people with all kinds of ideas. They may not belong to your party, but who cares? So long as they are Ghanaians, or not even Ghanaians, but they are prepared to sit down and share ideas with you. I believe that it is something which has to be encouraged. I thank you for the opportunity that you've given me to appear before you. I pray to God that He Himself will direct us and His will be done in our lives. Thank you.
And also on behalf of the Institute of Economic Affairs, on behalf of Joy FM and State Television, GTV and National Radio, we'd also like to show our appreciation to Professor Mills for coming. And on that note, I think it's a good point to invite the Director General of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, Mr. William Ampim Dako, who made it possible for you to see all this on television, but also on national radio.
Good evening, Professor. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, viewers and listeners out there. The last time we met over here, I made my position clear that I wouldn't like to make much comments about what the presidential candidates say, because I may dilute or enhance what they say. My professor in commercial law knows my capabilities. I think I'll leave it like that. I still maintain my position, having more than each. But I'll say that December 2008 is unavoidable. Definitely, the days are gradually rolling by, and surely we must be electing a president on 7th, or is it 8th December? 7th December. And we have to elect 230 parliamentary candidates. If we do it, it will be the 5th consecutive time that we do it successfully. And you can see that year over year, we keep on improving. So I'm very hopeful that the 2008 election is going to show much improvement over the previous ones. Ghanaians and the whole world is looking towards for a very successful election. If we're able to do it, we'll add another feather to our cap. And actually, people say that Ghana is really the oasis of peace in Africa. Our previous elections, the 4 elections, you may remember that there were more of personality attacks. This year, too, I think we've seen something like that, but it's not as much as what was happening in the past. And I believe some of these things are due to the way Ghanaians are becoming more sophisticated and discerning. If you insult, it will never bring you any vote. You have to talk about policies and issues that you have for the people. During the next 4 years, you want to rule the country. I would like to congratulate the Institute of Economic Affairs, the Joy FM, for their collaboration with Ghana Broadcasting Corporation to make this possible. The last time I talked about the way we're moving from campaign on the streets and other places to new technologies and multimedia. Right over here, what Professor Mills mentioned, the rice project he plans to do when he comes to power next year. Someone from Volta region, Senior, threw a question back to him, how are you going to do it? It makes it more interactive and governance gets better. So I should say we are doing very well, and I'll call upon all the other media houses, if they will join us, especially the electronic media houses, if they will join with the two collaborators to make it possible that when a presidential aspirant speaks, the whole world must be quiet to listen to him. That is all channels, Adom FM, Peace FM, Hot FM, Gold, all of this should be hooked up to what is going on, so that simultaneously we'll be listening to our future leader. I'll say that public interest groups in this country now, I can see a lot of them around me. What they are looking for is just a credible poll in December. And to have a credible poll, two issues are very critical. One is a well-prepared electoral commission and a fair media coverage. I believe on the media front, I don't think this year we've had a lot of attacks from the political parties. And I take this opportunity to invite the political parties to a meeting next week, 25th, so that we find a way ahead. But I think the electoral commission, they've done this over a period of time. With the IPAC meetings, there have been a lot of reforms in our political, in our electoral processes. And I believe that this year too, they will deliver. I thank you all for coming.
Please remain seated.